Ahoy! Hey, you know, it's never too early and never too late to check your galley, make sure you're set up for weekend cruising, longer cruises, maybe even live aboard. So here in the winter, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go through and check everything because we don't live on the boat anymore. I'm down here a lot, but we don't do live aboard. So I thought, and I've taken a lot of stuff off of the boat. And over the years, I've made a lot of changes to the galley as far as equipment, what I use, what I have, and how we process things. And I'm on a 30-foot sailboat. Most galleys are not real big anyway. Unless you're in a mega yacht. The galleys, you know, are reasonable size. But just because I'm on a small sailboat doesn't mean I have to eat peanut butter and jelly all day or baked beans and franks out of a can. I've made some really great meals on this boat. And check out my cooking playlist on the channel. I'll put a link below for you. We've even had Thanksgiving dinner on this boat. So a small galley doesn't mean poor food. It can be gourmet food and delicious food. So let's take a look at what I've got here, my equipment, some of the supplies, etc. And then I'm going to make a list of things that I think I might need to add. Let's see what we got. Now for the stove and oven, I've got the 2-burner propane. It is gimbaled, which is very helpful at anchor. And I keep the pot holders out here for 2 reasons. 1, when I do need them, and 2, just for space. Now the oven, we'll talk about the pans in a moment here. You know, it's a reasonable size oven. I've baked bread in here, cooked the turkey in here. But now let's take a look at some of the pots and pans. Now this is a broiler pan. I really don't use it as a broiler. What I'll do with this is I'll put a piece of foil over this and it becomes like a sheet pan for me. I do have a small baking pan, and I keep a cupcake tin because I do a lot of different things with that. And it doesn't take up a lot of space. It stores underneath here nicely. Where did I get in the way here? Oh, there we go. Okay. There we are. I do have a microwave, so I do use this microwave cooking pan occasionally. Now, when I'm at anchor, I still don't have an inverter, which I should put in because I've got the solar panel array. So I could use the microwave, coffee maker, a couple other appliances. But the key thing here is the pots and pans, and I've gone through a whole bunch of different pots and pans. When we first started, it was just odd and end things, you know, with the fixed handle. Then I went with another nesting pans, like these are called, but they had like a Teflon coating on them, and they were a good pan. They were square pans or oblong pans, and they worked well for about 5 years, and then, you know, the Teflon started coming off. So I thought, well, I'll try a stainless steel pan. First ones I got, I didn't like them at all. I got rid of them pretty quickly because they didn't have a nice thick bottom. So when you cooked, everything just kind of stuck at one time. Now, a nice thing about these nesting pans is all right, so now it's not a saute pan, you know, and saute means flip. Well, it's going to be hard to flip with this particular kind of pan. But you can still basically saute your things with that. And if you need to, you can just put it in the oven because the handles come off. Then I've got 3 other size pans. And the lid, you notice the lid is kind of tapered to fit what other size pan it is. And I've got the one handle for it. Now the one thing I did like about the other pans that, the nesting pans I had, the handle was more of a clip-on rather than having to fold this in. You know, see how I've got to pick that up? The other one, it just kind of sat right in there. But this works out really well. So here I had to be a little creative with a couple of things. This board here ran all the way in, so I cut this so that I could use that for some storage, and I put this little rack in, and in here I've got a few utensils, and it's my silverware rack, or flatware. And I got a few other little things in there. And I found I needed to put that bungee strip in there for heavy seas. One time it was rough and everything just fell out. Now another thing, is try to get things that can be used for multiple purposes. Like here I have this immersion blender that also has a food processor and a couple other little attachments to it, like for a cup to mix a margarita in. But the other thing that I have that is really neat is this battery-powered food processor, which is ideal for garlic and onions and celery for just small amounts of things. That works out really nice. Oh, and I don't want to forget the conversion I made of my icebox into a refrigerator. And this is from Cool Blue. I put this lid on this year because the hardest part of this conversion was keeping the box as airtight as possible so I didn't have condensation buildup. Since I put this on, the whole refrigerating system has operated much more efficiently. I know it's hard to see, but back underneath there, I've got my plates. Some mixing bowls. And cooking utensils. And one of the things about the cooking utensils, I like to use these folding type of things. I also have a small crock pot. Again, you know, if I had the inverter, I could use that while out at anchor, but it's not really necessary to do so. Similar to having the microwave. Well, let's go over the utensils. Of course, can opener, pair of tongs, food grater, and I had a mandolin on board, but you know, once you learn to slice, and I do know how to slice, I really didn't need that. Here's the collapsible container or colander. Small food mallet, like for chicken, pound that out. Serving utensils, spatulas. These are so critical to have because you could leave, I don't know, 3 or 4 bites or more of food in the pan without a spatula. You'll see that in some of the videos. Flipper. I like this one better I had this, especially when I had the Teflon pans, and I'm thinking, now that I'm using the stainless steel, I'll probably get rid of this and buy one though that still has an arc to it rather than just the straight edge. Gravy ladle, another small tongs, wooden spoons. You can't cook without them. Well, you can, but it makes it difficult. And then just a spoon strainer. I'll probably just keep this one. But that's all the utensils that you really need. Even the tongs here, I don't know where I got these. I think a boat neighbor gave them to me. They were cleaning stuff out. They're just a little too big. And as for dishes, same thing, really don't need a lot. Got two bowls, two bowls here, a couple of nice little serving dishes, some smaller plates, kind of for when we have company. These are our main dinner plates. They're getting pretty beat up. I think I might have to look for something a little different on that. Some smaller dishes. Yeah, looks like I need to clean that a little bit. And that's all you need. You don't need a lot of big serving bowls. And I do have a steamer, small mixing bowl, a little larger mixing bowl, and for my this is what I call my big mixing bowl at home. That's the small mixing bowl. But this is nice for steamed broccoli and vegetables. As for knives, I had, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 knives, but really the only thing I need is like a French knife, and this is a small one, which works out fine. A boning knife, and then I had a paring knife, but that one, I don't know what happened to it, so I think I'm gonna put that to the list. I also have a steel, you know, just to make sure everything stays nice and sharp. And I cut this little slot in the table here, or in the counter, to put the knives, rather than, I don't like the idea of the knives being on a magnet holder or in the drawer. This way it's safe and it doesn't dull the knife by being banged around. I'll also have a pair of food scissors. Then in here, there's some basic spices, cooking items. Same on this side, and that's why I keep my coffee cups in there and some oil. The key thing too in the small galleys like this, got to be a little creative at times. And then here in the drawers, you know, just some basic things, the dish towels, the handle for that. Oh, I have a sushi mat, and you may, you know, depending on how you cook and what you like, you may want a few specialty things like that. This is my rolling pin. Here's the collapsible funnels. Got 2 of those. Probably only need 1. But then my mixing cups, or measuring cups. And I know what you're going to say if you looked at some of my videos. I don't measure a lot of stuff. But when you do, it's nice to have this. Some food. Oh, yeah, I had a dehydrator on board. I took that off. This is soup. Inside of this is dehydrated frozen vegetables, some onions, mushrooms, and then all I need to do is throw this in a pot of water with a cup of soup and a beef cube, and I've got soup. Here's here's one. It's already got the noodles and everything in it. All I need to do is throw a chicken cube in there or something. So that's convenient. And the reason I had the dehydrator was boat neighbors who lived on shore, of course, had a garden. Several of them had a garden, and they would bring produce for people when they had excess. So I would make sun-dried tomatoes, peppers, onions, other things that I could keep on board for a long period of time. Okay, so to recap, you see I don't have a lot of different utensils and specialty type of things. The key is to be innovative, be creative with your spaces, try to utilize one tool for multiple purposes, like the immersion blender that's got some attachments to it. That makes a big difference. Learn to slice and dice. You don't need a big mandolin and all of these other things that you might have at home. Yeah, it might be nice to have some of those things, but you really don't need them. You can create some great meals with just a few pots and pans and a few utensils. So until next time, guys, happy and safe boating to you, your family, and friends.